once again, thank you. We are having an interview with the Minister of Information and Tourism of Somalia, Mr. Daoud Awais Jama. We covered a good portion of the program with respect to the agreement that was recently signed by Somalia and Turkey, and that was passed by both houses of parliament, and the president signed, which is an agreement that we're going to ask the minister to highlight. Minister, if we can summarize the questions that we were asking in Somali and your explanation of the agreement between Somalia and Turkey, if you can go through in chronological matter, what was the reason for the agreement? Was the reason something that had to do with a current issue with respect to Ethiopia? What are the impacts of the agreement that we want to see? Security, economically, and so forth. And moving forward, are there other agreements that are in the pipeline, so to speak, with other countries that cover similar areas? And also the last part is, as the international forces, ATMIS, UN, US, are phasing out, how will this agreement impact the existing agreements with international forces? Welcome, Minister.
And thank you very much, Gulet. And if I start with the issue of Somalia and Turkey, as you know, Somalia and Turkey share a long history. And recently, we remember in 2011 when Somalia was facing turmoil, especially when famine hit Somalia, and Somalia was crying out for support or international support to help the people who have been affected by the famine. It was President Erdogan, who was at that time serving as a prime minister of Turkey, who visited Somalia. His visit was a historic one, which has opened the gates of the international community to come and support Somalia. Or maybe it was an eye-opener for the international community to see how Somalis were suffering. So since that time, President Erdogan has been a good friend who has been taking part in the rebuilding or the recovery of Somalia. Both countries have signed a lot of agreements in the past. Let us also remember that when the central bank was revived in early 2011, 2012, I think, it was Turkey who was also supporting the bank to have some sort of money that was put first in the bank, and we thank them for that. So this was going on. There was a lot of cooperation between the two sides. They were supporting Somalia in terms of security, military, and financially. And as you know, the importance of the two countries' relations is reflected with the establishment of the biggest embassy of Turkey in Africa, which is situated in Mogadishu. And if I come to the agreement that has been passed today by the executive, the cabinet of Somalia, and the House of the People, and the Senate, and it was actually a historic day for both countries, because this is showing how the relationship between the two countries is growing. And if I go to give you some elements of the benefits of this agreement, is that this defense pact between the two countries will be important for both countries and can have various benefits. And security and defense cooperation. On the side of security and defense cooperation, the defense pact will allow both countries to collaborate on security and defense matters, including intelligence sharing, joint military exercises, and the training programs. This cooperation can also help or enhance the security capabilities of Somalia and contribute to the regional stability. And for the first time, we are now going to modernize our naval forces because of having the longest coastline in the mainland of Africa, which is 3,333 kilometers. We have been lacking and skilled forces who can take care of or protect our marine resources, our marine borders. But now with this agreement in place, we are expecting that it is going to be an opportunity for Somalia to have thousands of Somali forces who will serve in that area. And after protecting our sea, we are expecting that the blue economy also will be the funding source that will help the rebuilding or reconstruction of Somalia, because the agreement also outlines that Turkey will construct ports and airports and other infrastructures in several parts of Somalia. So that shows how important this agreement is financially and also security-wise.
If I can ask a one question in terms of a follow-up, thank you very much for that good summary. In terms of this agreement was signed, approved by the cabinet, as you mentioned, the executive cabinet, and both houses of the parliament, houses of the people, and as well the Senate. But this all has happened under the shadow of the recent MOU that was signed by Ethiopia and the northern region of Somalia. And obviously the political and diplomatic crises that developed since then. How will the government of Somalia, the Federal Republic of Somalia, essentially use this as a leverage in terms of pushing back on that MOU with purported to give Ethiopia a borderline in Somali waters? How does this impact the MOU?
I think the security agenda has been in the top list of all governments that Somalia had since 2000, when the Somali people met in Atta. And the biggest challenge that every government was facing was security. So this was the first agenda of every government that has been formed in Somalia. When President Hassan Sheikh was re-elected on 15th of May 2022, he outlined his agenda saying that security is still remaining as his first priority. And having Turkey on our side every time is that it was showing that the growing relations military-wise between Somalia and Turkey will culminate in having such a big defense pact that has been passed today by our houses. And when you mention the issue of the MOU, on one side, we can say that we are facing a lot of challenges in this country. One of them is that in our coastlines, many issues have been were being reported, including piracy and people dumping toxics in our waters. All these are challenges that are supposed to be reflected by the Somali government. If we say that the forces that we are going to establish, especially the Navy forces, are going to protect Somali waters, I think that's where you can say that it has some link with the recent MOU of Somaliland and Ethiopia. But the fact is that this has been going on for long for Somalia to look for a partner that can sign a defense pact with Somalia. And we thank the Turkish government and its people for recognizing our request. And it doesn't mean that this is going to limit us to have other cooperation and relations with other countries. We are still open to have more relations with other countries in different fields. But this one is something which is very important to Somalia. That's why we say it's a historic day for Somalia, that we are now putting more efforts of making sure that we put our house in order, and that will also be a hope. And Somalia is now going to be a source of stability in this region. So I think this is a positive that has to be supported by all the countries in the region, because as they were claiming in the past that Somalia was a source of violence, source of terrorism, now we are now focusing to make sure that we take part in stabilizing the region.
Excellent. Our time, the 1 hour time, is almost over. I will give back to Ahmed Yassin, who has one follow-up question, and we only have 5 minutes left. So again, thank you, Mr. Minister. Yassin.
Thank you. I just want a quick clarification, Minister. Is this it's not? Is it only a naval force or air as well? This agreement.
This is a military agreement which will contain a lot of military activities. It's not only the Navy forces, it will include the Somali National Forces, the infantry, and all sorts of forces that we will need to make sure that we secure our country perfectly.
Okay. Having said that, the Ethiopian Prime Minister, when he was speaking at the EU, African Union, what he said was, we want a peace in Somalia. We have no intention of any animosity, but the Somali president is the one who is not willing to sit with us and have a dialogue to resolve these issues. Somalia, and then he has a disputed in terms of the press conference. What the president of Somalia said, he said that did not happen. Can you clarify what has happened, and if Somalia is willing to sit down with Ethiopia to resolve their differences in a peaceful manner?
I think our stance was always clear that we have no any intention to have animosity with any of our neighbors. For the issue of Ethiopia, we made it clear that first Addis Ababa has to retract the illegal MOU it has signed with Somaliland, because there's no way that we can compromise our sovereignty, and we cannot put it as something that has to be bargained or put on the table for discussion, because that will never happen. What we are focusing is to make sure that we have a peaceful neighborhood with our neighbors and to live them with peace. It's not true that we are seeking to fight anybody. Even today, when the agreement was passed by both houses and the cabinet, the president made it clear that our intention is not to ask Turkey to help us fight Ethiopia or to fight anybody, is to protect Somalia. And that's one of the first priority of our country. Security agenda was top in our priorities always, and that will remain the same. This is to make sure that we work together with the region to make sure that we focus on development and progress, not on conflicts. Regarding what happened in Addis Ababa, I made it clear in the Somali version when we asked me this same question. And the Ethiopians were trying to prevent the president from giving his speech to respond to what Abiy Ahmed has earlier said at the meeting, because he was making it as if this was something that was open for discussions. Because when it comes to the territorial integrity, there's nothing to say that we have to sit with Ethiopia and then discuss a piece of our land being taken by them, and then we give them a chance for discussion. That will never happen. And the obstruction that the Ethiopians did was actually against the norms of the international protocols. We know that in U.S., New York is the capital of, or the headquarters of the United Nations. There are many countries who are not in good relations with the U.S., who always attend the General Assembly every year. We can remember the former president, the late Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, who used to go there and also made some critics to the Americans, the Iranians the same. So this was an embarrassment to the Ethiopian government. It was also giving us the legitimate question that all the African countries have to ask: can Addis Ababa still remain as the capital or the headquarters of the African Union? That's a question for debate. And for us, we can simply say that the way Ethiopia is behaving, it cannot continue to host the African Union in Addis Ababa if the situation does not change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Today you made a lot of news, and I know you are very busy. We appreciate your time at this busy schedule of yours. And today we are learning a lot, and we will continue this dialogue, Mr. Minister. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best. Thank you very much for coming to DUP TV.
Thank you very much, all of you.